One of the most common criticisms of the 5th edition Sorcerer is that it's just not strong enough when you compare it to the Wizard. And it's such a shame because one of my biggest pet peeves is when the mechanics don't fit the fantasy. The story of the Sorcerer is so rich. You've got magic literally coursing through your veins or perhaps in your very soul. And then if you feel that way, when you compare yourself to the Wizard, so many players are just gonna never experience what that's like at the table, which is why I'm really interested in all of the changes that this latest Unearthed Arcana playtest material for 1D&D is showing when it comes to the Sorcerer. There's a lot of flavor here, and you can tell that they put a lot of work into capturing the identity of a sorcerer and what makes playing that special. We're going to talk about those changes. You should stick around. One of the biggest changes that they made to the sorcerer is, at least in this version, I don't know if it's gonna stick, but sorcerers now prepare spells like a wizard, which doesn't seem to make sense to me if you consider that the spells just seem to emerge out of nowhere. It's like something that's in them. I don't know, something about that's a little weird. But I do like that instead of having a total of 15 spells at level 20, you at least hit 22 of them. So at least you've got more spells on hand. So right off the bat, we're looking at least a bigger quality of life update for the sorcerer. Also at level 1, they get access to 2 spells for free. One of them being Chaos Bolt, which isn't changed at all, and the other is Sorcerous Burst. Let's take a look at that. Sorcerous Burst is an evocation cantrip unique to the sorcerer. It has a range of 120 feet, and its components are verbal and somatic. You cast Sorcerous Energy at one creature or object within range. Make a ranged spell attack roll against the target. On a hit, the target takes 1d6 damage. If you roll a 6 on a d6 for the spell, you can roll another d6 and add it to the damage. Whenever you cast this spell, the maximum number of these d6s you can add to the spell's damage equals your spellcasting ability modifier. You choose the damage type each time you cast this spell: acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, psychic, or thunder. Cantrip upgrade: this spell's damage increases by 1d6 when you reach certain sorcerer levels: 5th level 2d6, 11th level 3d6, and 17th level 4d6. There really isn't much that's complicated here. I just kind of like this. It's a very versatile spell in that you can choose the damage type. It's leans into the fantasy of someone who's just learning how to control their powers, maybe doesn't know how to tap into their potential all the time. It gives the opportunity for some really cool hero moments if you just keep having hot dice rolls. Yeah, I think this is just good. Just like all of the other classes, sorcerers are choosing their subclass at level 3. And I think that that's something that a lot of people have had issue with because they just feel like, hey, if I'm a shadow sorcerer, there should be like shadow things happening to me right away. And if I'm a divine soul sorcerer, I should do divine things right away. And I kind of just say, well, magic is coming out at level 1 and it's taking a little bit more shape at level 3. So I kind of don't have a problem with it at all. Is it a little annoying in some ways? Yeah, sure. I think it's unnecessary for this change for the sorcerer, but that doesn't bother me really. Does it bother you? Let me know. At level 5, sorcerers will get access to the spell Sorcerous Vitality. Let's take a look at it. Sorcerous Vitality is a 3rd level abjuration spell that is unique to the sorcerer. It's an action and it works on themselves. You draw on your innate magic to fill yourself with vitality. You regain a number of hit points equal to 2d6 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. And if you have any of the following conditions, they end on you: blinded, deafened, and poisoned. At higher levels, when you cast this spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the healing increases by 1d6 for each slot level above 3rd. Yeah, so this is kind of like their own personal lesser restoration plus cure wounds kind of a thing, but it costs a level 3 spell slot. I guess in that way it sort of makes sense. 2d6 plus your spellcasting modifier doesn't really feel like all that much, because I don't think you're going to be bopping blinded, deafened, or poisoned all that much. I think if I really try and project what I believe this spell will do is primarily just a self-heal. 3rd level spell slot feels a bit expensive for that on me. I think I would make this a level 2 spell, but I mean, it's okay. I think it's fine. At level 7, sorcerers will gain access to the Arcane Eruption spell. Let's take a look at that one. Arcane Eruption is a 4th level evocation spell unique to sorcerers. It's got a range of 120 feet. Turning magical energy explodes in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point you choose within range. When you cast this spell, you select the type of damage dealt by the explosion. acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, psychic, or thunder. Each creature in the sphere must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, a creature takes 6d6 damage of the chosen type. On a successful save, a creature takes half as much damage. Choose one of those d6s. The number rolled on that die determines a condition that's applied to each creature that failed the save, as shown below. A creature has the condition until the end of your next turn. Incapacitated, blinded, frightened, poisoned, charmed, or deafened. At higher levels, when you cast this spell using a spell slot of 5th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d6 for each slot level above 4th. Yeah, so this is kind of like the sorcerer's own personal modified fireball. The range is a little bit lower, 120 feet to 150 feet, but that's totally fine. And 6d6 damage is less than 8d6 damage. However, you choose the damage type, and then you also inflict a condition upon creatures that fail their saving throw. Oh, and by the way, if you roll poorly, like say you roll a 1 on one of those d6s, you can make that condition incapacitated. Incapacitated. So it's like combining hypnotic pattern and fireball in a way. Wow. That's fun. I mean, there's some little odd things, like if you wanted to choose poisoned, but you didn't deal poison damage, suspension of disbelief is in danger there, I guess. Okay. But this is fun. You're almost like rooting for at least 1 or 2 bad damage rolls, and you're rewarded heavily for it, as long as people fail their saving throw, of course. But this has the potential for a lot of fun hero moments at the table for a sorcerer, and the sorcerer should be that raw power that just provides these moments. And there's some more mechanics that we're going to get to later on that lean into that even more. I kind of like this. At level 9, sorcerers gain access to this spell, Sorcery Incarnate. Let's take a look at that one. Sorcery Incarnate is a 5th level transmutation spell unique to the sorcerer. It's a bonus action and it affects the sorcerer themselves. It's got a duration of concentration up to 1 minute. The magic within you blooms, transforming you into a glimmering being of magical energy for the duration. You regain 1d4 sorcery points. Until the spell ends, you gain the following benefits. You can use up to 2 of your metamagic options on each spell you cast, provided you pay the sorcery point costs. You have advantage on the attack rolls of every spell you cast. So this almost is kind of like a sorcerer's version of like Arcane Rage. And I think that there's a lot here to like, but I do wonder if the cost is worth it. So it's takes up your concentration slot. It can last a minute. So, I mean, obviously you can get a lot of benefits round over round with this. Advantage on every spell attack. That's nice. You could feel a lot more confident burning higher level spell slots on lower level spells because you know that there's a decent chance you're really not going to miss. That's always a risk reward play. Getting 1d4 sorcery points is unique. I don't think we've ever seen a spell that's done that before. And I really like the direction that could be headed in. But I wonder, is 1d4 enough? Because this is a 5th level spell slot, and it takes your concentration. I don't know. This is something I would want to see in action before I felt like I gave like a final verdict on it, but that's the thing that stands out to me. Mechanics and the fantasy, oh yeah, this sings. Like check, 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 A+. But is it going to be worth it? Is it something that sorcerers are going to actually feel a need or a desire to use? What do you think about that? Let me know in the comment section. At level 15, this version of the sorcerer actually gets the old capstone, but instead of getting the 4 sorcery points on a short rest, it's short rest or roll initiative. That's nice. At level 18, we have the sorcerer's new capstone, Arcane Apotheosis, which, let's take a quick look at that one. You are now so suffused with magic that you can alter reality itself. You always have the wish spell prepared, and if you undergo the spell's casting stress, you have no chance of losing the ability to cast the spell. In addition, you can cast Wish to replicate a spell of 1st through 8th level without expending a 9th level spell slot. You instead expend a slot of the replicated spell's level. Once you use Wish in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Wow, this one has some layers to it. So right off the bat, you get Wish for free. It's baked into the Sorcerer's class, which makes sense from a flavor standpoint. They are embodying magic. Therefore, they should have the most powerful spell. All of them should. And this is your capstone. The interesting thing about the way this works is the most common way that Wish is used is to replicate a spell's effect of 8th level or lower. Now, the thing that separates the Sorcerer about this is it doesn't take their 9th level spell slot once per day. If you want to say use this to cast Greater Restoration or Disintegrate, anything that's 8th level or lower, it takes that spell's spell slot, not your 9th level spell slot. So in effect, you can do Wish twice per day, even if you only have one 9th level spell slot. That's pretty interesting. What's even more interesting to me is that the Sorcerer using this Arcane Apotheosis feature doesn't have a chance of not being able to cast Wish again. That is really interesting because that was always the risk. It was like, ooh, you're casting Wish and you're not going to replicate a spell. There's a 33% chance you'll never be able to do it again. You better make sure you word this properly and your DM isn't gonna really twist your words and do something really sneaky and all sorts of, evil dungeon master meme kinds of things. But this is, this is interesting. I like the flavor here, and I think this is a fun capstone with a ton of open-ended, creative possibilities. And that's what I like most about Dungeons and Dragons, so I really like this. Now, the subclass that they include in this Unearthed Arcana was the Draconic Bloodline, which has been renamed Draconic Sorcery, which is a naming convention that you will see be more consistent moving forward. There are some definite improvements and things going on here, starting first and foremost with Draconic Resilience, which you still get the extra hit points that you would naturally get from the original version, but the armor class calculation is a little bit different. Instead of basically being like mage armor cast on yourself, where you'd have 13 plus your dexterity modifier, you get 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your charisma modifier. These sorcerers are going to be like monks. This is kind of really going to be strong. You're going to be seeing sorcerers not wearing armor routinely having armor classes of 16, 17. I mean, if you maxed out both, your natural armor class is a 20. That's a pretty big buff. One nice thing that they added is that you don't learn the Draconic spell, but any creature of the dragon type will understand you when you talk, and when they try to communicate back to you, you will understand them. So it's actually more powerful than just learning Draconic. That's kind of nice. In case you weren't already homebrewing Elemental Affinity not costing you a sorcery point, they finally said, yeah, that really shouldn't be there. If you're a red dragon sorcerer, you should just have resistance to fire. At level 10, you get a brand new feature called Draconic Exhalation, which once per turn, a good thing to note, you actually can turn your Sorcerous Burst cantrip into a 15-foot cone. Now, you have to choose the elemental type that you chose or that's associated with your dragon ancestor. So like if you chose as a blue dragon, it has to be lightning. If you chose a black dragon, it has to be acid, that kind of a thing. And you actually make a separate attack roll against each creature in the cone. So that's a nice, flavorful thing to add and a little bit more utility and mob control that you get. Draconic Sorcerer should kind of be able to breathe a breath weapon kind of a thing, right? That makes sense. Now, the level 14 feature, Dragon Wings, did get some changes. Personally, I like the original one better. It was very cut and dry. You can just sprout spectral dragon wings and you can fly. The new feature, you only get these wings when your Sorcery Incarnate spell is active. And you can hover, so that's nice. And then at the end of that, you can flap your wings and deal damage to each creature within 15 feet of you. That sounds nice, but it's equal to your spellcasting ability modifier. So unless you're enhancing it by magical means, at most it's 5 points of damage, and this is a level 14 feature. It's only active during Sorcery Incarnate. I don't know. I just think I'd rather always be able to fly. What do you think about that? I'd also love to hear your thoughts if you think that these new sorcerer mechanics fit the fantasy of playing a sorcerer. This feels distinct from the wizard to me. And I think they're doing a pretty good job at leaning into that identity, which clearly to me is a design goal. If you're interested in watching about the wizard changes, that video's on screen now. If you're interested in seeing other 1D&D content, there's probably more of that there too. So thank you so much for watching. Take care, everyone.